and welcome back to another video on the channel. And in today's video we're going to be getting into my round 16 tips for the 2021 AFL season, and as well as that we'll be seeing how I did in round 15 and going through my tips and seeing who I tipped, see what tips I got right and wrong, and yeah, just see how I did all up in round 15. And then after that we'll move on to the round 16 tips, so we'll hop on ESPN and see how I did in round 15. Alright, so round 15 tips, I got a total of 5 out of 9 tips correct, which isn't too bad. It's probably the average, but I definitely could have got some tips correct that I just thought, if I just thought it through a bit more, I definitely would have got them correct. But yeah, I thought I would have had actually a pretty spot on week of tipping before the round. But yeah, no, it all started off on the first game, which is where I started off being wrong. I tipped the Cats to win this by 11 points at the Gabba, and they got flogged by 44. The Brisbane Lions just showed they were a much better side in that contest. They got the job done comfortably at their home ground, and they took home the chocolates in that. Geez, absolute flogging as well. Maybe they could be premiership contenders, the Lions. And then moving on to Friday night footy, I tipped Richmond. They kicked a total of 2 goals 10. So that's the worst way you can start off a round, getting the first 2 tips incorrect. And especially tipping Richmond to beat the Saints. You'd think surely they get it done, and they get flogged by 40 points. Not complaining. I do like seeing the Tigers lose for once. It's good. And especially against the Saints, who are a pretty average side this season. And then the Saturday games, it was North and the Suns at Blundstone, 145. And I tipped the Kangas and they got up, so that was good. And that was good for the tips. I think I didn't watch any of this game because I was at the Freo game, and then obviously next up Collingwood Freo. This pisses me off. I tipped Collingwood. I had no confidence coming into this game at all. We usually perform the shittest brand of footy at Marvel Stadium, but the boys got the job done. In the end, we won it by 2 goals. It was an absolute thriller. Go watch the matchday vlog if you haven't already. And next game, it is Port Adelaide versus Sydney. I tipped the Power and they got it done by 10 points. Jeez, the Sydney Swans with a pretty respectable loss, to be honest. Only losing by 10 points against Port Adelaide in Adelaide. So, respectable loss for the Swans. I definitely fought hard during this one. I didn't watch much of this one either because I then went to Essendon and Melbourne. I went to 2 games in one day. It was an absolute thriller day. It was on the Saturday. It was really good. So Saturday night footy, it was the Dons and the D's. I tipped the D's to get it done, and they did in the end. Geez, the Bombers fans were not happy with the umpire decisions on the weekend, that is for sure. If you watch the matchday vlog, you'll be able to point out why they weren't happy and everything. But moving on to the Sunday games, GWS and Hawks. Pretty big upset this. The Hawks got the job done at the G, but because of the Sydney lockdown and the COVID cases, obviously they couldn't play at Giants Stadium. And I'm pretty sure if GWS played at Giants Stadium, they easily would have got this job done. But yeah, at the MCG, the Giants play a pretty shocking brand of football. Hawks got that one done in the end. And then I tipped the Dogs to beat the Eagles. I wasn't 100% sure on this one. And the Dogs, look out for the Dogs. They are in they're probably the best team in the league right now. Yeah, geez, obviously they lost against Richmond, they lost against a few teams, they lost against the D's, but I feel like they've fought their way back after those few losses, and they're definitely the best team in the league right now. They're in the best form, beating the Eagles at the Eagles' home ground, beating Port Adelaide at Adelaide. You know, it's shaping up to be a pretty brilliant season so far for the Dogs. They're definitely a team to look out for, and yeah, geez, I'm pretty sure, luckily Freo don't have them again later on in the season, because it could ruin our finals hopes if we did have them on, if we did verse them later on in the season. But geez, yeah, the Dogs absolutely dominated that one against the Eagles. They just couldn't get their hands on them, the Eagles, and the Dogs just kicked goal after goal after goal. It was crazy good stuff from the Doggies. And then it was Carlton and Adelaide for the last game of round 15, and the Blues got it done, and I did tip the Blues as well. So decent round of tipping. Definitely could have got a few more correct if I just thought it through. But we'll move on to round 16, and we'll look at the games, look at the teams. I actually haven't looked at any, not really any of these games yet for this round, so a lot of them will just be out of the blue from these tips. For these tips. So starting it off, it's Thursday night footy. at Metricon Stadium, Richmond Gold Coast. Ooh, I actually might need to think about this one, not even going to lie, because Gold Coast aren't in that, they're in pretty poor form, but the Tigers, should I tip an upset here? But the Tigers play brilliant footy at Metricon. I'm going to tip, this is a massive call, I'm going to tip the Tigers to win it after the siren by 5 points in an absolute thriller. Obviously, the Suns won't be used to playing Thursday night games or night games in general. So, yeah, I'm going to tip the Tigers to win after the siren, but this could go any way if I'm going to be completely honest. Then moving on to the Friday night game, I could be going to this one, so maybe expect a match day vlog. I might be going with Kato, obviously he's a Cats fan, that's why. But anyway, the Cats and the Bombers at GMHBA. Oh, look, the Essendon Bombers nearly got over the line against Melbourne last week, and the Cats, who did the Cats play? They got flogged by the Lions in Queensland. So, at GMHBA, I honestly might tip the Bombers for an upset. If the Saints bet Richmond on Friday night footy as an upset, but no, you can't tip against the Cats at GMHBA. It's so hard to do that, and especially against the Bombers that have been just an up and down team all season. It's hard to tip against the Cats, and I'm not going to today. But then next up, it's Saturday games, 1:45 at the G, Melbourne and GWS. Melbourne, GWS play absolutely shocking at the G, and we just found that out last week. Obviously, they versed the Hawks and lost against the Hawks at the MCG, so they're definitely not beating the Ds at the MCG. I'm going to tip the Ds in this one. They're 98% of people tip the Ds, and 2% of people that tip the GWS Giants will just have to be their fans that can't tip against their own team. But yeah, definitely tipping the Ds to get the job done in this one. Then moving on to 4:35 p.m. at Adelaide Oval. It's Adelaide taking on the Brizzy Lions. Straight away, I have to tip the Brizzy Lions in this one. You never know, these two teams always bring in an epic clash. There's always some pretty good games and a pretty good rivalry, actually, for these two teams. I'm not sure why there is a rivalry between them, but it's fun. It's a good game to watch, this contest. I'm going to tip the Lions, though. I feel like they'll just be a bit too strong in the contest, especially coming off that massive win against Geelong. I feel like they should easily run over the Crows at Adelaide Oval. Next up, it is 7:40 p.m. Marvel Stadium game. Hawthorn and Port Adelaide. Oh, look, Hawks coming off a win. Hawks could upset this one. Hawks could definitely upset this one, but I just feel like the Power should get it done. I'm going to go with the Power, but if I'm going to be completely honest with this tip, if the Hawks win this, I'm not going to be surprised, and I'll be a bit pissed off in my next tipping video if they do end up winning this, because I don't know why, I just have a bit of a feeling, I can just imagine it in my head that the Hawks just somehow get over the line against the Power. But yeah, I'm going to tip the Power just to be safe. Moving on to the next Saturday night game, it's at Optus Stadium, 7:40 p.m. as well. Freo, 87% of people have tipped the Dockers, and they're taking on the Blues. We obviously all know what happened last year at Optus Stadium when the Dockers took on the Blues. Jack Newnes won it after the siren. Yeah, it wasn't good at all, but the Dockers, I think, they're in better form. Especially at home. We're just coming off a win away from home, so I'm going to tip the Dockers pretty confidently in this one. And yeah, we should get it done, but I'm not sure because WA are just coming into lockdown by midnight tonight. So I don't know if there'll be fans or not at the footy, but we'll just have to wait and see. And then moving on to the Sunday games, we have Sydney and West Coast at GMHBA Stadium. A bit of a different one, but obviously because of the Sydney lockdown, we can't have games in New South Wales. So Sydney, West Coast at GMHBA. West Coast play a shocking brand of footy. I'm going to have to tip Sydney. I'm actually going to have to tip Sydney. This is crazy to think. If I'm basing this off like 2 years ago or 3 years ago, tipping the Swans over West Coast just sounds so wrong. But yeah, I'm going to tip the Swans. I just feel like they're in better form. They are in better form than the West Coast Eagles. And West Coast play horrible at GMHBA. Don't know how the Swans play at GMHBA, but I'm going to tip the Swans to win this. And then 2 more games remaining in the round. We've got Collingwood versus St Kilda at the MCG. Collingwood coming off a loss. The Saints, I'm going to tip the Saints. They'll have so much confidence coming off last week's win against Richmond that they should be able to scrape across the line against the Pies in this clash. And then last game of the round, it is the Dogs and the Kangaroos. We all know what happened earlier in the season with this game. Won by, I think, 128, and Bruce kicked 10. I went to that game as well. It was a good game. Yeah, it was pretty fun to go to, actually. But I'm going to tip the Dogs. I feel like they won't win it by as much as they did last time, but I feel like they'll still get it done. I'll tip them by 35. And there it is for the round 16 tips of the AFL season. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you are new to the channel. It'll mean a lot to me, and yeah, I'll see you guys in my next video. Cheers.